Hi, how are things going?
Things are good.
Things are good?
Yeah, May's off to rock and start.
Well, I mean, I guess that's good news. I wanted to bring up a topic that I keep getting comments on that I think is kind of hilarious. It's the aspect of demons and being an atheist if you are in spiritual work at all. When I run ads or if I post some things on social media, there will be comments often that will say stuff like, oh, this is demonic and they do not, believe in God or whatever. And I find this so fascinating. Like, really, because it
Yeah.
just is like, where are you getting this from? I'm very unsure of why everybody just assumes that any spiritual work is from the devil or demonic or you do not believe in God. Well,
Does it
I
come from
guess
religion? I mean, is that
yeah,
something that's
that's
taught in religion?
that's I guess primarily where it must stem from because I can't think of any other perspective where that's just an assumption. It has to be stemming primarily from religious beliefs or where they learned anything about this type of thing. Or maybe they didn't learn anything about psychic stuff or mediumship or anything of that nature. So then they assumed that it was demonic. I don't think that you gain a perspective of demons, of hell, of demonic things though, unless you're taught about it. I don't think there's much children that come out going, "Oh, but steer clear of that. That's very like demonic or from the devil or they don't worship God." Like I don't remember even having a remote inkling of any of these things. The interesting thing is I actually grew up Catholic. I mean, meaning I was baptized Catholic. And my grandfather, he was a teacher for a very long time in a Catholic school. They went to church services. I have gone with them when I was younger. My dad and the siblings, a lot of them went to Catholic schools. And so it was never pushed upon me, I guess I would say, because of that reason, because the aunties, uncles, my parents, they never aligned with that sort of teaching, I guess I would say. But at the same point, I was never taught that these things were terrible either. And what's even more interesting is my grandmother, being from the Philippines, was also Catholic as well. She had a rosary and whatnot. Her grandfather, I'm trying to go back, where was it? Grandfather and father, both along those lines, they were very much psychic. And so now you have her that has a very strong religious background, but yet is also embracing of this type of thing as well. So I was never meant to feel it was weird or that it was bad in any way, any sense of the word. So I find that interesting as well because they were heavily rooted in that my grandfather taught in the school, et cetera, et cetera. And it was never portrayed as anything negative in any shape or form. It was encouraged to be in tune with your intuition. So I think that it absolutely is a case by case basis of not just the religious belief per se, but how that's translated to you as a child or growing up or whatever. I still do not get it because I've read the Bible and it's not like people are portraying. So when people automatically come in and post those things, I'm like, well, you clearly didn't read it yourself. It was dictated to you or whatever, because the things that are said are not even true on there. So,
Yeah, and like growing up, I didn't grow up with religion. that was just a choice I think, that my parents had made. It was more of like you get to grow up and choose whatever you want to believe in, which I really loved that aspect of things of
Mhm.
letting us sort of guide
Yeah.
ourselves to feel what we're drawn to, what we are wanting to learn about. And I never grew up learning anything about demons or what was demonic. I mean, that was not a subject matter. I was always really fascinated by psychics. I mean, I grew up in the era of Miss Cleo on television, so it was like, "Ooh, what is that? What is this?" Even though she's not a great example, but like the Sylvia
I don't
Browns,
even know who that is.
you don't know Miss Cleo? Oh my god, it was like infomercials late at
No.
night, and they would be like, "Call me now," and
Oh,
so
or like the 1-800, like, call
yeah,
California Psychic thing or something.
yeah,
Okay.
I was always just fascinated by it. I never really actually got my first reading until I think it was 2019 when I finally was like, "You know what? I can actually just get a reading." I was always so fascinated by it. And it was never anything though that I grew up thinking was scary or bad or labeled as demonic or
Well, and to
satanic.
add on that, to be fair, I was in the same boat. I was never pushed towards any one way or another. However, in the field, you should know, if you choose to get a reading though, that it's not regulated. So this is why I'm very adamant about teaching, and I created the school and I do certifications because there are a lot of readers out there that should not be reading. They just don't have the experience under their belt. They've never had a mentor, which is incredibly important if you're going to be a healer of any kind. You should have a mentor that helps you to navigate and understand things, because when it comes to healing work and learning how to work with your spiritual senses, you're not going to gain everything textbook wise. You're not going to be able to just understand it. I don't care how many books you've read. So it's nice to have somebody can help you navigate unique situations. So because the industry is not regulated, I personally highly recommend that you do lean on the side of skepticism unless you have interactions and conversations or you've been referred to somebody, because I do think that that's very important to protect your energy and not just be fully open to anybody in this industry. That doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
because just like if you do anything, you can go to a good mechanic and a not so good mechanic. You can go to a good hairstylist and a not so good hairstylist. You need to have referrals. You should have some type of interaction. See if it aligns with you. While I don't know what everybody else's beliefs in the psychic realm are, but I personally haven't come across any colleagues that do not have a very strong relationship with God and or a very close connection with something positive, a higher power. I don't know. It's I just find it so funny. Like when I read comments like that, I'm like, "Oh geez, here we go again." Like, it's so, and that you actually took the time to comment blows my mind. You didn't have anything else to do with your day. I'm not really sure how you thought that was gonna affect anything. The only thing I can think of is I feel like sometimes I think that if they put it in a comment or on paper, they're like, "Oh, I'm protected now." Like,
Yeah.
here's my buffer. Stay away from me because, whatever. So I think it's hilarious.
My hope, though, is that we're moving in a direction where we have more conversations about spirituality, psychic mediumship. I want people to be more open to it. I do feel like society is moving more into that direction, being open to it, having those conversations. I think even with the all the talk of off planet beings, extraterrestrials, aliens, whatever you want to call them, that also kind of opens the door to talking a lot more about these types
Mhm.
of subjects.
Well, I hope so because it's necessary. While we move forward into 2026, 2027, and beyond, it's going to be incredibly important for you to be able to think for yourself. And in order to do that, in my opinion, you need to be at least somewhat aware and connected to your intuition. because that's going to be your truth detector moving forward. Does this feel aligned or does it not feel aligned? Should I believe this? Should I do this? I think it's incredibly important. When you just shut that down altogether, it's going to cause a lot of issues all over the place. That's where I see chronic health issues coming through. That's where you see people kind of go off the rails into fear and worry because now you're being guided by somebody else's either quote unquote belief system or just what they want you to believe. They might not even believe it, but they may want you to believe it. So moving into the next few years, I think it's going to be absolutely necessary for you to be plugging into your own internal compass and learning how to develop that. If they don't, I think that there's going to be a lot of fear and worry that people are going to have to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the interesting things on this topic, because you had sent me a podcast and I had a 2.5 hour drive this weekend. So I was like, oh, I'll listen to the podcast.
Yes.
And it had mentioned that the vice president had called aliens
Oh, I
or what did he
forgot
call them?
about that.
He called them demons. He labeled them as demons. And the podcast was, I believe it was Michael Sandler's Inspire Nation with Dr. Stephen Greer. And it was
Okay.
a fascinating episode. And they were talking about how labeling them as demons is a dangerous way to
Well, here's
disclose this information.
the rule of thumb for anybody who would be in my circle. If anybody's calling anything or anybody a demon, that should be a red flag immediately to dig into that more yourself. 100%. Because that to me is just a straight up scare tactic, those words. Because I've met more people, humans, that have more of that type of quality than I have ever in the supernatural. Like for real. So people are always like, oh, I'm scared of spirits. And I'm thinking, well, you should be way more scared of humans. 100%. Like for real.
Yeah.
That is where you should put your fear and worry. 1000%. Not over with the supernatural and spirits and that sort of thing. That being said, I didn't hear the JD Vance thing. I did hear it on the podcast, but I thought that it was, I laughed so hard. I really laughed hard because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, how does that make it better? Like, even if you are trying to calm people down, I don't
I
think
don't think
that's
they are
the
trying to
end
calm
goal.
people down.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think they
I'm
want to
just
make people
saying
scared.
for sure, but I'm just saying in a world where you're supposed to be the parent of the nation, right? You're supposed to be like, everything's okay, right? Don't worry about it. I have it handled. I feel like that's what people hope for is the don't worry, everything's going to be okay, right? And so
Yeah.
if you're that person for the nation and then you go, oh my God, these are supernatural and they're demonic. And you just start panicking. Like, you don't want your parent running around with their hair on fire. Like, you don't want them being like, oh my God, yes, this is terrible. This is so bad. This is horrible. We should be very worried. Like, that is scary for kids, So I think that it's similar.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely hysterical. And the most ridiculous, I mean, it's so ridiculous. I think I was just like jaw dropped. Like, like, this is what we're moving to now.
It's such an uneducated stance on labeling them when I believe he hasn't even been fully briefed on the topic as he should. But
I'm just, you got me of where that stance even came from. Just is like, did he write that? Did somebody like? It's the weirdest thing in the world to me. I've heard a lot of angles. That is not an angle I've heard before. This is a new one. The aliens being demonic. This is a whole new angle that is just blown my mind. And I don't think that he's the only one, though, if I'm correct. And you know how much I'm not on social media or any of those things because you're always like, what? You've never heard of this? And So when I did go down listening to some podcasts recently, I don't normally do that, but I'm so tired of what's on TV. I'm just
Mhm.
over it. It's just, there's nothing on there I want to watch. It's uninformed stuff. It's boring. And sometimes I would like to have my mind stimulated a little bit more with just stuff that's going on or whatever. So I have listened to some more podcasts recently, which has been very nice when I'm like doing work things or whatever, throw it on in the background. I do believe after I watched that one, there was several more that were being shown to me that were saying something similar. And I'm just like, this is such a new angle. It's cracks me up. Like it really, really does. Especially when I am very aware that there are humans that are absolutely people you should be scared of. I mean, serial killers
Yeah.
and things like that. Like th- that is to me the closest you're getting to that type of energy. So I think that's way scarier than, aliens coming down. Not to mention, just do not have to be a psychic. You do not have to be anybody, but have somewhat common sense. If we've been being visited for as long as we've been being visited, and I believe that it's been ever since anybody's been on this planet,
Yeah.
there would be some type of aggression long, long, long before this. And I remember I watched another podcast this weekend where somebody said, well, now you guys know that we're being watched. They were talking to somebody in the military as like a military person who was talking about, yes, we've seen them. We've seen them in the ocean. We know they're watching us. It's not a secret anymore. Basically, it's starting to come out in various places, etc. Well, now that you know, do you feel like we should be concerned? And I'm thinking, literally, are you out of your mind? Like it just doesn't strike your brain that if you have somebody coming here from light years away that can clearly navigate in and out and has been for thousands of years, you don't think they would have messed us up a while ago? Like, you don't think that there would have been some type of aggression? I mean, seriously, that just makes me feel like the intelligence factor of those people is just lower than common sense. Because if you take 2 seconds to just work through that in your mind, you'd be like, well, clearly they would have done something way prior to now. Honestly, I just really think they're trying to save us from ourselves at this point. I
Yeah.
really honestly do. I think that the watching aspect is to make sure we really don't blow up the planet or do things that are just incredibly stupid. Because if you do the research, if you go down the rabbit hole of where they've been seen and the top things are always around the nuclear sites and things that could really screw up the earth and the atmosphere. That seems to be where their concentration is. So in my mind, I'm like, thank God, because we have people with uh not the greatest ideas, I guess I would say, when it comes to the health of the planet. So thank God that there's something else watching over to be like, we got to watch the children down there, make sure that they don't mess up the planet for good, you know?
Well, I have a really interesting story to add on to that. So I had did a QHHT past life regression session in Kansas
Oh.
City, and the whole session was about 5 hours. I was under hypnosis for about 2.5 hours, even though it didn't really feel like that. And so I was
Mhm.
going through several lives. One of the lives that I went through, I was I was like a small being on a ship. I don't know what race of alien. There was no hair, it was smooth skin, large head, big eyes, and my whole job was just to watch humans because humans were volatile and they could mess everything up, and we were just
Mhm.
trying to make sure we monitored them so that nothing happened. And if something did get a little sketchy, then we could do something where we would bend time. We would bend time around events so that we could help protect everybody and keep everyone safe. It was a very interesting, unexpected life viewing that I
Right.
had. So,
Well, and you had something very similar when we did the regression session at the retreat as well, right? You and somebody else did, which we won't talk about her stuff because she's not on here, but somebody else had something similar to that. Oh, that they said that they were in some type of ship or something, and that they were doing something very similar. They were watching, they were looking over and making sure that nothing went awry or in a bad way. But there are a lot of things that talk about that also in the Book of Enoch and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there's some documentation about that also way back of being watched. But again, I just want to reiterate that makes me feel a lot safer,
Yeah.
truthfully, because I am here in Hawaii. I do see what comes up. The bad part is you get to see what comes up on the ocean, like from storms and stuff, all of the plastics and the debris and the stuff that should not be in our ocean. It is so much plastic. If you live near the ocean, you probably notice that. But anytime we have a storm, everybody around here, they take bags, doggy bags, trash bags, because you pick up the debris along the way because it's so much. It's crazy. And these are the decisions we're making. I don't think they're great. I really don't. There could be 1,000 different ways that we could use something outside of plastic that's going to not break down and end up on our beaches, because I'm old enough that I've lived in a time where that wasn't a thing. Most things were aluminum cans or glass. We didn't have a lot of plastic for drinks. It's crazy just even in my lifetime that that's sort of become the normal, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. And it's so nuts to me, like I said, that if you just thought for yourself, just for a second, you just worked that through that for a minute and said, okay, well, let's say they are watching us and they've been watching us for thousands of years, like nothing bad's happened. In fact, the only bad stuff that or not bad stuff, but the only stuff I've really heard of is them containing things around nuclear sites or disarming nuclear weapons. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts or stories out there that you can listen to of different military people talking about how mind blown they were when things were defused, or, you know, I don't know how they shut them down. I don't go that far into the rabbit hole, but whatever that they've done to make them inoperable. Though, like, I don't know where the bad stories are, except for maybe people being picked up by a ship and then being,
Abductions.
yeah, abducted and then being freaked out. But I don't even think that any of those stories, like even the Betty and Barney Hill and those types of things, would ones that are really famous. It's not like they harmed anybody. In fact, the Betty Barney Hill one's very interesting because she learned a lot of things about their race and where they were from and all of that that is published online. It's all over on the internet. And you can read her hypnosis sessions and his, both of them. They were married. And it's really, really fascinating what she has said under hypnosis. So that's kind of interesting. But again, when they say that they've been picked up or whatever, it's not really, it's traumatizing, sure. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, aliens are real and I felt poked and prodded, but it's not like there was any really severe things that were harming. I mean, assaults. You have that happen in the US all the time that are way more assaulty. So it's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think there's more humans that have committed.
Caused more physical pain and emotional pain to people than any of the alien stories. So,
Yeah, because even Dr. Stephen Greer was talking about his own experience, and I found that extremely fascinating about him being on a ship and his experience and how he got into meditation and how he was miraculously healed when he had some sort of infection. I can link the podcast too
yeah,
because I think that would be really good for people to just to
sure.
listen
And you
to
should
what we
send me
talk
that one
about.
because I didn't listen. But
You didn't listen?
that
You
sounds
sent
good.
it to me.
Though, well, I didn't listen to that part. I only listened to part of it. I get busy and
You
then
should have listened to the whole thing. It was good.
it's the ADHD. What can I tell you? I don't know. It just moves me on to the next thing.
We've
But
got
anyways,
homework.
yes. Okay. Well, so what else is going on?
Okay. I do, just to circle back really quick, I do have questions on the whole aliens or demons things because we know that they're not, but we haven't ever really described or defined what is a demon.
Well, in my mind, and I believe that we should leave that open for people's interpretation on their own. In my mind, it is an energy that is very strongly linked to dark energy. And that dark energy feels very scary and feels very like hurtful. Like there's nothing safe feeling, fuzzy feeling about it. And the intentions are not good. The way that I explain it to people is, and people really should watch Star Wars, where we're talking about the light and the dark. And I know I've talked about this before, but it's a very good visual for people to understand that type of power, the dark wanting power from control and you know, I don't know how would you explain that part in Star Wars? Just wanting the control, wanting to be able to be the biggest and the best in more of a control aspect. Then we have the light, which is anybody with good energy, love, things of that nature that is also fighting to be the dominant energy. So, what it really comes down to is we have dark energy, we have light energy. They're constantly fighting to be the dominant energy that is in and moves around all things. So, that's going to be a fight till the end of whatever existence we have, in my opinion. So, that to me is what makes up a demon or demonic energy, I guess I would say. So we have, it doesn't feel good. It feels very insidious, like it feels harmful potentially. There's a lot of control being asserted to make sure that you're going in this direction and you're aligning with things that have to do with power and possibly hierarchy too, because whenever I have felt like I've come across any type of spiritual stuff that feels very scary, I guess I would say, or what people would say demonic. And I've come across these types of energies now in the spirit realm and in human realm, in the human form. When that happens, there does seem to tend to be some type of hierarchy in there where all the energy is being guided by like a person or place that is trying to create dominant negative frequency. So I don't know if I explained that very well, but it's gathering negative frequency and amplifying it to the best of their ability, however that is done. And negative frequency would be, like I said, harmful, scared, worry, fearful. And those are negative frequencies. So anything that amplifies that, in my perspective, is demonic or what people would consider that to be, because it's not in alignment with people's highest good. You know, when we're working with the light, that's in alignment with people's highest good. If it makes you feel good and it makes you feel like you're expanding and you're advancing, those are all positive frequencies. Those are white light frequencies. They are moving you towards your highest good. But when we start dealing with things that start to make you feel worried, shameful, guilty, those types of things, that's a problem. That's a negative frequency. And if somebody's pushing that narrative, that's where I would say, well, if you believe in that. I don't even use that word because I think it's so ridiculous, but I feel like people want to make it a person because it's easier for them to wrap their head around it.
Like a
So,
demon is a person? Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? That it's
I
easier for
feel
them?
like people want to make it a person or several people, several entities that would then be working with a hierarchy entity that would be directing these, the lower demons or whatever. So that's what I believe people are thinking a demon is, and they're moving towards saying, okay, well, that's moving you towards a low vibration. That's moving you towards things that are not feel good or that are not of God or whatever. So they use those types of things. And I do believe that there's a religious context to that, going way back. But, like I said, you find people on earth that are using more of a don't do this, scare tactics, worries, fears to manipulate. I guess that's a word I've been missing the whole time. And that's a problem. That's what, in my mind, you should be watching for. So, does that make sense?
Because I think, yeah, it does make sense because I think a lot of people want to make demons entities or beings, and it's more so a frequency. Would you agree with that? I mean,
Yeah,
there's a spectrum of light.
I believe it's more of a frequency. Now, do I believe that there might be some beings or entities that amplify that frequency? Yes. I do believe that there's more of frequencies that align with that or entities that align with that. So, in essence, some of it I believe is also true because if people believe in demons, like, oh, okay, they're influencing however, whatever you think that they're influencing, and they have an agenda. Well, I do believe that some of that is true. There's people, beings that want to raise the narrative of fear and scarcity and worry and all of those things. They want to amplify that narrative. In my mind, they're aligning with that type of frequency that's a negative frequency. And you do need to be aware of that. That's just how it is. If you are not going to be influenced by any type of negative frequency, you want to be very aware of anything that makes you feel scared, worried, that sort of thing. And then you want to move a different direction. You want to move the opposite direction. You want to move towards white light, towards positivity, because they both exist. I
Mm.
mean, it really comes down to both worlds exist. There are dark energies, there are light energies. There are beings, people, whatever that want to align with a negative narrative. There are. And there are people that want to align with a positive narrative. But I think it's very misconstrued when people are feared into align with this negative narrative, like that is really scary over there. They're manipulated into going, that's wrong, that you're gonna have all these horrible things happening. That's a red flag. That's manipulation. Now, that's a problem because now we're again moving away from thinking for ourselves. We're moving away from intuition. We're moving away from, expansion. And there's so much great information when you tune into your intuition that's healing and helpful and can bind you together with a whole bunch of other people that are also on the same frequency of love and expansion and healing and health and happiness and creativity. There's also quite um quite a frequency over there where you could also align with. So then it becomes a choice. You're either going to choose to align with something that makes you feel good, or you're going to choose to align with something that doesn't make you feel good. And I just don't understand why you would ever align with something that doesn't make you feel good, especially when you're being told, align over there. That's the best place to be. That's like, what?
Yeah, I think this is a good pivot to a new lighter topic about using your intuition and Right, get ready for a hard left turn. Saw a news article this
Yes.
past couple of days, and this is where using your intuition is going to be very important because Kathy Hilton recently fell for an AI diet fad. So there's
Oh
all
my
these
gosh.
AI. Did you see that?
I seen that on the reunion show, I think it was. Yes, that she talked about it because I do watch some reality TV, and yes, that was on there and it cracked me up. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I guess there was these AI videos of like Dr. Oz and
Yep,
Oprah promoting
yep.
this Jello diet, and the Jello, it was comprised of gelatin, baking soda, and vinegar, I think,
Yeah,
and
something.
it really messed her up.
Mhm.
And to me, this is just another example of why it is so important to pay attention to your intuition and use discernment to know what is a good thing to do and what is not so good. And do not let AI just make all these decisions
Well,
for you.
this cracks me up because, okay, I do think number one, there's a place for AI. And I do think that there's a lot of people that are like, AI is definitely going to be the death of every human on the planet and the planet, whatever. I'm not of that thought process. I think that there's a place for it. I feel like there are places to look at the good in it. That being said, my little grandsons, everything you show them, and they're like 9, is like, "Oh, that's AI." Yep. They don't believe anything. So it's like the opposite now. Like, I don't care what you show these kids. You have to be like, no, this was like from 10 years ago. So it's not AI and it's not AI generated. This is like a real video from 10 years ago. And then they'll be like, oh, okay. But they are the most skeptical
They're
kids on
ready
the
to
face
shut
of
it
the planet.
down.
No, they're not going to buy nothing. They're just going to first assume it's all AI. Then you can have to gain their trust from there. So it's kind of funny. You got people going from one end of the spectrum of, "Oh, that's real," and you have them, the younger generation going, "Oh, yeah, that's all AI." And that's another thing I've noticed. It does seem to me that because I have a little brother that's, a teenager, and I have, like, other younger people, my kids, all that. I feel like the younger generation is not buying any of it. They're just like, everything's AI generated. I feel like the older generation is more prone to not really, getting that or fact checking,
Yeah.
I guess I would say.
100%, because I mean, they still fall for all kinds of phone scams
Right.
and whatnot, so they're definitely in that demographic. But
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that I love AI. I use it a lot. I don't find it to be scary, but I know that there's a time and a place for it. And I see some of my clients will just completely let it run everything they're doing. And that makes me a little upset because I'm like, why are we stopping and not thinking for ourselves anymore? We can't just hand it
To
over
me,
completely.
it's the new Ozempic. Like, I mean, let's just not overuse it and let's use it for what it's for if people are going to use it. I mean, I clearly don't use it, but I know way too many people that are on the Ozempic train and they want the shortcut. They want the shortcut of, not having to do the physical and the diet and all of that. And I find that kind of interesting. So I think there's a balance to all things, whether it be AI, whether it be uh, Ozempic, whether it be, I don't know, drinking, alcohol, anything. Scrolling,
Everything in moderation.
everything in moderation. Like, let's just not get crazy about it and let's use things to help you enhance your life and to feel good, but let's not just make that the end all be all of all things. I think that that's where you sort of lose control of your life. And what if those things go away? We don't want to be fully dependent on any of that kind of stuff, right?
Do you think we're gonna become dumber as a society?
What is that show? What's
Idiocracy?
yes. Um I I think we have. I'm sorry. I think we have. I think that there are a lot of distractions that cause people not to think for themselves, honestly. And I think that when you don't think for yourself and you form an opinion based on everybody else's opinion and you're just so hardcore about it, it doesn't help to enhance your intelligence factor, your IQ factor. It just doesn't. You need to be able to research those things, come to some type of conclusion on your own of whether those things fit in your life, don't fit in your life, work for you, don't work for you, because the amount of people that are different is crazy. We have all kinds of different genders and ages and purposes and jobs and all things. So there's not a one size fits all with everything. You just need to do research and see what works for you in your life on all things. So I don't like the follower aspect of what's happening. And that's not a pun with social media. I mean, it's literally a follower time frame, I feel like, where we're just being we're following this and then we're following that and then there's no thinking for ourselves anymore, and that's again where the intuition comes in, and I think it's very important.
Part of me wonders and thinks about, I think about a lot of things where it's kind of like this new shiny toy and we're all super jazzed about it and we're just, it's novelty and we're doing all kinds of things. I wonder though if we're going to get to a place where we get sick of it and actually crave like real human connection, real, like authentic human made things.
Well, I mean, I think that's happening already again with the younger generation. I think that started happening with COVID too, though, when everybody was told you can't do this and you can't do that and you basically can't think for yourselves, because they literally said on a lot of different things that they didn't trust the way that anybody thought. So they were going to manage things for everybody, meaning states and different local cities and stuff. They really felt like nobody could make good decisions. And I think that that is terrible. If you did that to a teenager, you just like you would make them so codependent. Like everybody knows this. So why are you doing this to adults? Number 1. So that's kind of nuts. I do believe that, again, the younger generation, they're bringing that back, and I love it. They're hand making items. I mean, we do the Spirit Expos. The amount of handmade items now that people crave and want is awesome. They want to come see us talk in person. It's amazing. They want to make their own breads. They want to grow their own food. They want to get back in touch with, the humanity of it all, of living, of being in tune with the earth, being in tune with themselves. So the new generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, I don't even know all of the names. You
I think they
probably
go
do.
alpha beta. I think that's what the younger
Is
that
that
I
what it
know
is?
the younger ones are alphas, but
So thank God for these young kids, because they are coming in with a think for themselves mindset. They are coming in with, we want to get back to basics. They want the human contact. They want to go more natural. They want more organic stuff. Did you know that drinking is at its lowest it's been since like the early 1900s? Like it's dropping drastically. And I know this because weirdly enough, I was watching Gordon Ramsay's show on Netflix, which I really loved. And he talked about how they had to close some restaurants because if anybody knows anybody in the restaurant industry, alcohol really carries a restaurant. It just does.
Mm.
So they depend on a lot of alcohol sales to help carry everything else, because I've known lots of people that have had restaurants. And he was talking about how they've, over the years, because of the way that people are drinking less, they have had to close some of their restaurants because they were no longer profitable. But people are going more towards natural things, like they're more towards edibles and weed and different things like that, if they're, or towards nothing. But I think that they're calling that what, like California sober, whatever, I
yeah,
guess.
well, California
Yeah.
sober is like just weed, I think, no
Yeah.
alcohol.
That's what I mean. They're veering more towards that. But that comes from the earth. It's not a chemical compound. And that is very different, in my opinion. So I love that the new kids that are coming up are so smart and they really stick to their guns. Like, you have got to super convince them, and you have to have your ducks in a row if you're going to change their mindset, because they're just not going to have it. And I love it so much. I think it's gonna change the landscape into such a beautiful place.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was another thing that I wanted to ask you about, and it's something I've been thinking a lot about. And it's basically my phone and sleeping next to it at night. And is that a bad idea? And I know that you're going to say yes. But then I was like, well, what can I do if I'm going to have my phone around me at night? Do you do anything to your phone? Do you shut it off at night? Like, what do you do at night? Because I'm
Well,
under
I
the
mean,
impression that it emits a signal or a frequency. Well, I guess I don't even know if that's true. Like, can your cell phone emit a frequency that isn't so positive for you while you're
well, I
sleeping?
mean, there's context to that. Number 1, I do sleep with my phone near me simply because I also have a new grandbaby coming, and there are times where my kids have needed to get a hold of me, so I can't shake the mom thing, you know? Like, I need to be available in case something happens. So that's why that I do that. However, as sensitive as I am, I 100% can feel when my phone's in a room or my iPad or my computer. So I can feel the energy coming from it, and I will not sleep as good. If I know that I'm good to leave my phone in the other room, I don't have to worry about it. Or for instance, if we're on a family vacation and everybody's together and, they're going to come knock on your door anyways, and I can leave my phone in the other room, I sleep totally different because I am not feeling the energy of the phone and like at the iPad or something. However, computers are way worse. Like,
Okay.
I cannot even sleep with that in my room. Like, that has to be in another room completely. In fact, I know my husband keeps trying to leave his computer in the room because he keeps trying to keep it plugged in because he has this really old computer that will die. And I'm like, I know it's in here. Like, I can feel it. You have to. Well, how do you? I can feel it. Like, and he's even put it like down below because he thinks, okay, if she don't see it, she won't have the reaction. It's like, no, it's in here somewhere. I know it's in here. It's the weirdest thing. But I absolutely can feel it. And what it does for me, which is what I'll speak on personally, it makes you more edgy. I feel the energy feels more edgy to me. It feels more chaotic. So the frequency that it gives off doesn't make me feel calm and relaxed. It makes me feel anxious and like just on guard, I guess I would say. So I don't like that feeling. So I try to keep it, away.
Well, the reason I asked, and I need to stop watching TikTok, but
Oh,
I'd
geez.
seen a TikTok and they were talking about the frequencies in your phone and how you shouldn't be sleeping next to it. And they had mentioned that, I don't know, the powers that be that are nefarious could send signals through your phone that would make you agitated and upset, make you more irritable. So
I think
that,
that goes back to, I think it's called EMF. Is a
yeah.
frequencies. That's a real thing. Like, that's an actual you can and that frequency is supposed to make people agitated. Can it come through things? Absolutely. It can come through anything that you're getting a frequency wave from. That's the thing that is also very interesting is people do not realize that when you're dealing with energies and you're dealing with telepathy and you're dealing with spirits and all that sort of stuff, you're dealing with information, especially channeling. You're dealing with information that is on a frequency wave. That's how they harness things coming into the Wi-Fi, coming into the TV. This is not separate. It's very similar. So I find it very interesting. This is another thing with the education thing. I mean, how come people don't wonder how their Wi-Fi comes in with a light that they harness with information? in accord. Why is that not, why are people not just going, that's crazy that I'm getting my information through light or radio waves, TV, streaming? How are you not just like, how are they sending this through the air? They're sending it through light or the air. Like
Yeah.
if you, again, common sense, take a millisecond just to sort through that. If you can get photos on your TV and all these kinds of things, and we're getting the coolest things from, Wi-Fi, it's a possibility that you're going to get other types of frequencies. But that's why I think that it's upsetting, or not upsetting, but it feels weird also when people are by light poles, or you know what I mean, just any type
Yeah.
of frequency thing. That's why people don't want to live near nuclear plants or things of that nature, because of the frequency that it gives off. So do I think that it's capable? Yes. Do I think that everybody should lose their mind and freak out and worry and put a tinfoil hat on? No. I don't I don't think I don't think anybody needs to be walking around with, they'll probably come out with like hard hats that are that
I'm
would
like
be
teetering
hilarious.
on the tinfoil hat because I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't know what to do. And I obviously want to protect myself. So I'm like, if I put my phone on airplane mode, would that help? If I use something like a Faraday bag, would that help just to put my phone in at night
Wow,
so
you
that
really just have one right there.
I do. I did. Yeah. Because I wanted to talk about it.
So far down the TikTok. Now, I love TikTok for some things, but I do find that for like even my daughter-in-law, she'll say things and we'll be like, "Were you on TikTok again?" Like we just have to be, but it is informative on one aspect, but it isn't on another. Here's the thing. When it comes to what I feel like people are worried about with mind control and things of that nature, it's being aware of your thoughts, being aware of how you function. And again, I think that they should be more concerned about negative energies coming through, meaning like negative type spirits or things that are trying to bring your frequency down, saying, "Oh, you should never do that. That's very scary." Because I think we've been talking a lot about earthly type frequencies, but there are negative entity spirits that can also come in and try to jack up your frequency. Again, we've got the light and we got the dark. Is it on earth? Yes. Is it in the spirit realm? Yes. It is everywhere. So it doesn't matter if we're talking earth or spirit realm or galactic realm. None of that matters. Be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of negative thoughts. When you start getting very hard on yourself, it doesn't matter if that frequency is coming from yourself, from an alien ship, or from the spirit realm. Just notice that you probably shouldn't be so hard on yourself. Maybe you should be looking for the positive in something. Maybe this might be a lesson for you to work through. So just spin the narrative. If you're feeling down and thoughts don't feel good, spin the narrative. You have control. Look for the positive. Look for the positive angle. Look for a lesson that you might be needing to learn. How can this be potentially a good thing? Because I do feel like everybody's automatic reaction is to go to worst case scenario and maybe being hard on themselves or down on themselves. Those are two things that I wish people could navigate better. I don't like how hard people are on themselves in their own head. And that's not all their own thoughts. That's influential thoughts as well, whether it be, again, earthly, spiritual, galactic, whatever, belief systems. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter where it comes from. This is where tuning into the intuition, training your brain, training yourself to think more positive than negative, catching yourself when you're in a negative loop. As long as you start training yourself to look for the positive and the light and the rainbow, the light at the end of the tunnel, the rainbow around any event, you're heading in the right direction. You don't need to know exactly where it's coming from because the influence is everywhere. Like I said, it's from the spirit realm, it's from the galactic realm, it's from the earthly realm, it's from everywhere. If we try to figure out where every single negative thought comes from and every single negative influence comes from, you're going to spend so much of your time trying to sort through that. You're going to skip the very easy process of just flip the narrative, right?
Yeah, this is why they always say to be the observer of your thoughts, right? So
Mhm.
that you can recognize them when they are on the more negative side so that you can pivot and change and make
I
those.
constantly, I do on the daily, all the time, it is constant in my head. If I start to notice that I feel negative or I'm getting hard on myself, I spend most of my time trying to figure out how to flip it, how to make my mind see something different, how to align with a positive outcome, how to shift my perspective so I see a positive lesson. You know, that's where
Yeah.
I spend my time. I don't spend my time trying to figure out where the heck it's coming from. I don't care. I just wanna flip it. And that's where I wanna do my work. That's where I wanna spend my time.
Okay, final topic.
Mhm.
Every morning when I wake up, it usually is only got a few seconds, and I'll have the thought come into my mind, and it'll be something of like, "Oh, I wonder how long Pixel, my dog, is going to let me sleep." And about 5 seconds later, she'll start chirping at me. Just we have a crazy routine. Should we start in the bed together at night? But then she will get really squirrely in the middle of the night, and she is not afraid to just take her paw and swipe me across the face or just
Oh,
start beating me up. Yeah, she's aggressive. And she's probably going to join us now because she knows that she's being talked about. And so I will put her in the middle of the night, I will put her into her little pen and she will stay there for the rest of the evening. But when I am in bed alone and then I wake up and I'm like, "Oh, I wonder how long I'm going to be able to sleep." Then she'll start her little barking and like, "Hello, I'm awake. Come get me." And I'm like, she's totally hearing my thoughts, right? Like
oh,
there's
100%.
telepathy happening there. I can't
Oh,
have a thought
100%.
and
So,
it just drives me
the
nuts.
interesting thing with telepathy is that is the universal language. So, most beings, animals, things, all of that nature, they work with telepathy. It's, I would say, less known, less used to use verbal communication. If we're talking the whole universe, it's kind of crazy. So, animals, babies, spirits, they're all using telepathy. It's the universal language. That's how that animal communicators work with animals. That's how that you work with children a lot of times. That's how children know things a lot of times. And then again, we're taught not to use telepathy. How do you know? Whatever. You need to teach children how to use telepathy a lot of times or explain what they're doing so that they can work with it and enhance it more. And animals naturally do it of all things. But this is how you can receive information through trees, plants, insects, I guess, anything that you would want to communicate with the earth. But this piggybacks across the or to the subject of what we were talking about is frequencies and information come through waves. You know, telepathy is receiving information into your consciousness and then translating that information. I've talked about this before. You're an antenna and your brain, your human brain's a processor. So you receive information, you process it, and then the pictures become, in your head. So it's kind of like your Wi-Fi to your TV is your quantum heart and where you're receiving the information, which I call your spirit brain if you've been in any of my classes. And then the TV would be what happens up in your physical brain. So it's very similar. You're receiving the information, you're streaming it up here. So it's very, very common. Verbal language is more archaic. And I think it's a lot less when it comes to, I feel like, universal language and how that works. So it's not so natural, I guess I would say. babies are born, they're able to use telepathy. They got to figure out how to talk. They got to figure out how to use verbal communication. So they spend many years training to use verbal communication. And animals use telepathy. And we've tried to get them, I think, over the years to use some type of verbal stuff. Some animals owners swear they're communicating verbally as well. But yeah,
Well, there's some
telepathy
English words that she knows for
is
sure.
there. Oh yeah, for sure. So she has learned language. She clearly can't speak it, but if we say things like, I don't know if I say walk, but and she freaks out,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you do, and she will freak out. But
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I knew how to spell candy. I think it was the first thing I learned how to spell because my grandmother kept spelling candy when she didn't want me to know she was saying candy. So, like, yeah, animals can learn how to spell, they can learn words and things of that nature, but they will communicate telepathically, which is why I'm also having a telepathy class on June 9th to just talk more about this subject and to teach people more about it.
Will you be giving
Mhm.
us techniques to try?
Uh-huh. Yep. We'll
'Cause that'd
be,
be exciting. Because I
yeah,
wonder too, I'm like, if I had like, how do I send messages beyond just, saying a few English words? "Here's my little princess." Um, would I have pictures in my mind that I try to send to her, or how would we
well, we're
know?
gonna
Yeah,
save
we're gonna
that
get
for the
into that.
class. Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna get it on for the class because I feel like people don't use it as much because they're just not educated on how they're using it. Most people are using it already. You just don't know how you're using it. So that's just the simple trick of most things. I think that most people use a lot of different skills, psychic skills, mediumship skills, but any types of skills that don't include the spiritual or metaphysical. Oftentimes you just don't realize that you're using those skills. And when you learn, oh, okay, this is how I use it and this is the technique and oh, I've done that before and oh, I do understand that and that does make sense and I have experienced it, it becomes more real. Otherwise, telepathy feels untouchable or it feels like something that you might not be capable of when you're totally capable of it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that'll be exciting. So, if anybody is interested, we'll have links in the description, the show notes on where to sign up for the class and then also to get on your email list so they can stay up to date with all of the new things that are coming out.
Yes, I will be doing a lot of things coming up. We have also the mediumship stuff coming up at the end of the month, right? Yeah, the end of the month. And geez, don't comment about demons on this. I just, I mean, I just, it's so weird. I just go on and delete them because I'm like, this is just literally wasting my time. And even if you are commenting on the demon aspect, like, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast anyway. So it's like a whole thing. So that being said, yeah, we have that coming up. I will have a quantum healing class coming up once a month and we have a lot coming up actually, and then
Yeah,
we had
even
some this year.
upcoming Spirit Expo.
Uh-huh. Yep, we
So
have
we
that
will
coming up.
be accepting vendors soon. I'm going to get that up and running on the website so that if
Yeah.
you are in Hawaii or want to travel to Hawaii, you
Mhm.
could be a vendor at our show
Oh,
and you could
yeah,
see us
and
in
it's
person.
so fun that I have so many people, like, already contacting us, yes. I'm getting texts and all kinds of things. "When is this happening?" It's gonna happen in August at this moment in time. We'll announce the date maybe next time, but we gotta
Yeah.
just make sure we get everything signed and confirmed, I guess I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Alright.
Okay.
Well, I guess we'll be back next week and see what kind of topics are what's surfacing. You'll know because you're in the TikTok stream, the TikTok
Yeah.
world.
What tinfoil hat conspiracy theories we'll
Yeah,
talk about?
next thing I know, people will be making like tinfoil hats inside like ball caps and stuff.
Fashionable tinfoil hat.
Right? That's
We could start a whole
People
line.
would probably buy those like crazy for real. So they'd be like, "Okay, this guards you from any frequencies." Bulk oh gosh. Yep, somebody's gonna make one of those, and they're probably
Yeah.
gonna just, like, make millions of dollars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Alright.
All
Well,
right.
We'll talk next time. Join us next week. Have a
Sounds
good day.
good.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.